This is Land of Havilah, 2 Samuel 16. David and the exiles are fleeing Jerusalem. It's chaos. They've just gotten started, now going over the Mount of Olives. Coming up, we have to remember about Mephibosheth and Ziba from 2 Samuel 9. David had a covenant with Jonathan that he would be kind to Jonathan's house forever, 1 Samuel 20:15. David fulfilled that covenant by doing several things for Jonathan's son Mephibosheth. He brought him out of poverty, gave him all the former land of his grandfather Saul, and let him eat at the king's table like a son. David appointed Saul's former servant Ziba as the overseer of Mephibosheth's property. After that, Mephibosheth didn't have to concern himself with anything except showing up at the royal table for dinner. Verse 1. When David was a little past the top, when David was a little past the top of the Mount of Olives, still in verse 1, behold, Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, met him with a couple of donkeys saddled, and on them 200 loaves of bread, and 100 clusters of raisins, and 100 summer fruits, and a container of wine. The king said to Ziba, "What do you mean by these?" Ziba said, "The donkeys are for the king's household to ride on, and the bread and summer fruit for the young men to eat, and the wine that those who are faint in the wilderness may drink." The king said, "Where is your master's son?" David's asking, "Where's Mephibosheth?" Mephibosheth is lame in both feet, but he's well enough to ride on a donkey if he wants, 2 Samuel 19:26, still in verse 3. Ziba said to the king, "Behold, he is staying in Jerusalem, for he said, 'Today the house of Israel will restore me the kingdom of my father.'" We shouldn't necessarily believe Ziba, but according to him, Mephibosheth is staying back in Jerusalem because he believes Israel's going to crown him king. After all, he's the grandson of the former king Saul. Ziba's account will be in question later on, but if we can believe him, Mephibosheth is a traitor to David. He doesn't appreciate any of the excessive kindness that David has shown him. Verse 4. Then the king said to Ziba, "Behold, all that belongs to Mephibosheth is yours." Ziba said, "I bow down. Let me find favor in your sight, my lord, O king." David just gave all of Mephibosheth's property to Ziba, covenant or no covenant with Jonathan. There's maybe a little lesson for us here in faithfulness to God. Mephibosheth wasn't faithful to David, and we must be faithful to God. After all God's done for us, we should remain faithful, because if we want to be king ourselves, who could blame God if he forgot his covenant with us, his covenant of loving kindness, and cut us off like David just cut off Mephibosheth? This brings up the subject of eternal security, whether our salvation is always secure or whether it might be in doubt depending on whether we're faithful to God. But we know one thing for sure: we shouldn't push it. We don't have any reason to push it anyway. It's our joy and delight to be faithful. Now coming up, David's still on the route to the fords of the Jordan. He's past the Mount of Olives now at a place called Bahurim, verse 5. When King David came to Bahurim, behold, a man of the family of Saul's house came out, whose name was Shimei, the son of Gera. This is our first introduction to Shimei. He's related somehow to Saul. Still in verse 5. Shimei came out and cursed as he came. He cast stones at David and at all the servants of King David, and all the people and all the mighty men who were on his right hand and on his left. Shimei said when he cursed, "Begone, begone, you man of blood and wicked fellow. Yahweh has returned on you all the blood of Saul's house, in whose place you have reigned. Yahweh has delivered the kingdom into the hand of Absalom your son. Behold, you are caught by your own mischief, because you are a man of blood." Shimei has a lot of nerve because David has hundreds of military men around him. Shimei's calling David a man of blood because he spilled the blood of Saul's house. In other words, according to Shimei, David killed some of Saul's relatives. This catches the reader off guard because so far we don't know of David killing anyone in Saul's family. But we do find out later in 2 Samuel 21, 1-9, that David in fact did kill 7 of Saul's descendants, so that part's true. But Shimei's wrong about it being unjustified. So Shimei, because his view of what David did is twisted, is cursing and insulting David, telling him it serves him right that Absalom has overthrown him. This is a classic case of schadenfreude, which is taking delight in someone else's misery, kicking them while they're down, gloating, and it's all because of fake news, some sort of twisted view of what really happened with Saul's relatives, or an incomplete knowledge of the facts, all of it shaded because Shimei is Saul's relative. Coming up, David has someone with him called Abishai. Abishai is not in a mood to listen to this. He's one of David's mighty men who's been with him since his years on the run from Saul, 1 Samuel 26:6. He's Joab's brother from the same father, Zeruiah. Abishai and Joab have a violent history. They killed Abner, 2 Samuel 3:30. Abishai wanted to kill Saul, 1 Samuel 26:8, but David held him back. Now Abishai would be more than happy to make quick work of Shimei, verse 9. Then Abishai the son of Zeruiah said to the king, "Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Please let me go over and take off his head." The king said, "What have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah? Because he curses and because Yahweh has said to him, 'Curse David,' who then shall say, 'Why have you done so?'" David said to Abishai and to all his servants, "Behold, my son who came out of my bowels seeks my life. How much more this Benjamite now? Leave him alone and let him curse, for Yahweh has invited him. It may be that Yahweh will look on the wrong done to me and that Yahweh will repay me good for the cursing of me today." Comment: David's in a mood to accept whatever punishment's coming his way. He has faith that Yahweh sees what's going on and he's trusting Yahweh to make it right. David has shown the capacity to take extreme action or to exercise extreme tolerance. Today it's tolerance, so this is Shimei's lucky day. Verse 13. So David and his men went by the way, and Shimei went along on the hillside opposite him, and cursed as he went, threw stones at him and threw dust. The king and all the people who were with him came weary, and he refreshed himself there. Comment: They were exhausted when they came to their first stopping point, but David refreshed himself there. Now back to the situation in Jerusalem, verse 15. Absalom and all the people, the men of Israel, came to Jerusalem, and Ahithophel with him. Comment: Absalom and all the men he invited to Hebron left there and came up to Jerusalem. It's the natural place to reign as king. Now coming up, the story of the competing counselors, Hushai and Ahithophel. Hushai is David's friend. He agreed to go back and offer foolish advice. Ahithophel defected to Absalom. Verse 16. When Hushai the Archite, David's friend, had come to Absalom, Hushai said to Absalom, "Long live the king! Long live the king!" Comment: Hushai is working his way into Absalom's confidence according to David's instructions. Verse 17. Absalom said to Hushai, "Is this your kindness to your friend? Why didn't you go with your friend?" Hushai said to Absalom, "No, but whomever Yahweh and this people and all the men of Israel have chosen, I will be his, and I will stay with him. Again, whom should I serve? Shouldn't I serve in the presence of his son? As I have served in your father's presence, so I will be in your presence." Comment: These are all falsehoods that Hushai is there to serve Absalom, but they're justified falsehoods. We could call them lies, but that's not the right term. Justified falsehoods is a better term, and we've seen many of them so far in the Bible. Exodus 1:19, Joshua 2:4, 1 Samuel 21:13, 1 Samuel 19:17, 1 Samuel 21:2, and other places. In some cases, a justified falsehood fits the bill just perfectly. In many cases, they were told to protect innocent life. And here Hushai is protecting the anointed one of Israel, meaning David's the rightful king by the choosing of Yahweh, and he's protecting Yahweh's choice. Yahweh never anointed Absalom whatsoever, so Hushai's falsehoods are protecting and supporting the Lord's anointed. Coming up, Absalom's going to consult the other counselor, Ahithophel, who's not working for David. Verse 20. Then Absalom said to Ahithophel, "Give your counsel what we shall do." Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Go into your father's concubines that he has left to keep the house. Then all Israel will hear that you are abhorred by your father. Then the hands of all who are with you will be strong." Comment: Ahithophel says, if you lie with your father's wives in public, you'll demonstrate that you're his enemy, and furthermore that he's powerless against you. The news of this will spread like wildfire in Israel. Everyone will be afraid of you and afraid to support your father. If they fear you and don't fear your father, they'll strongly support you and not your father. Verse 22. So they spread a tent for Absalom on the top of the house, and Absalom went into his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. Comment: this was the fulfillment of Yahweh's word to David, quote, I will raise up evil against you out of your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes, and give them to your neighbor, and he will lie with your wives in the sight of this sun. 2 Samuel 12:11, verse 23. The counsel of Ahithophel, which he gave in those days, was as if a man inquired at the inner sanctuary of God. So was all the counsel of Ahithophel, both with David and with Absalom. Comment: David and Absalom had utmost confidence in Ahithophel because it was as if his counsel came from the throne room of God. In this case, we would think that Ahithophel's counsel was wicked to sleep with David's wives, but that's a deep subject because the counsel came from God. So there's just too much here for the human mind to sort out how Yahweh's justified in planting that sort of counsel in Ahithophel. The bottom line answer is that we're not in a position to question God's actions. 2 Samuel 17 is next at landofhavilah.net, 2 Samuel 17.